everyone. This is Margaret Manning with 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. My guest today is Jane Archer. Jane is an award-winning cruise journalist. She works for the Daily Telegraph, based in the UK. And she writes for lots of other cruise magazines as well. And I'm so excited to have you here today, Jane. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so women in our 60 and Me community love to cruise. We've done surveys and people love to cruise, but we have one little challenge. A lot of women over 60 have divorced, or they've lost a husband, or maybe they just have chosen to be single. And when they go to look for a cruise opportunity, there's always this dreaded single supplement. So perhaps you could tell us what a single supplement is, why cruise lines charge it, and then we can talk about what we might do to avoid it.
Yeah, sure. I do know what this is one of these issues that comes up time and time again. Yes. The single supplement, basically, the idea, the whole the whole structure, if you like, of a cruise ship is based on two people being in a cabin. Right. And the revenue getting from two people. So if you have a cabin which only has one person in it, for their economics, they have to charge an extra person or part of an extra person in order to make it financially viable.
Until they start building new ships with smaller rooms for single people, it's going to be hard for them to justify stopping the single supplement. So what strategies can we use? Are there any cruise lines that have single rooms?
Oh yeah, there are, absolutely. I mean, that's and actually the really, really exciting thing as far as your viewers are concerned is that more and more cruise lines are putting single cabins on their ships, right. Just because the community of single travelers is rising. And it's not just because people are on their own. It's because they are choosing to travel on their own. And it might be that there is, a group of, let's say three women want to travel together. They don't want to stay in the same cabin. Yes. They each want to have their own cabin. So they're catering for those as well. So, I mean, just to give you an example, Cunard has just put single cabins on the Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth. Next year, Queen Mary II will be going in to have a refit and some cabins. There are not very many, but it's a start. It's something. P&O's Britannia, which came out this year, that also has some single cabins up there on the ship. And it's really good because they put them all in one area and very close to one of the bars. So it kind of acts as a meeting point as well. So yes. If you make friends with other people in your corridor, you can always meet in the bar. And it's a really nice sort of place to get together. So, I mean, as I say, more and more of them are doing it. Norwegian Cruise Line is a perfect example. Now, it's when it launched Norwegian Epic, it had these really very, very small cabins, which were originally going to be for two people. And then they decided, actually, it makes much more sense because there are so many single people, or I should say people who want to travel on their own, let's turn them into single studio cabins. And so that's what they are. And now they're on the fourth ship has just come out, the Norwegian Escape. That also has them. So in between times there's been the breakaway and the getaway. And as well as having the cabins, which are very small, I mean, you really sort of can almost put your arms out and touch the sides. So right. They are small, but they provide a special lounge, which is special private access just for people who are staying in those single cabins, so that they can get to know each other. And there's a little board where you can leave messages for each other. So that's a really great step forward as far as I say, the cruise lines recognizing that there is another market of people out there. Yeah. But just to moving on from that, but there are also plenty of other cruise lines that actually also have single cabins. Now, they tend to have the older ships, which were built with single cabins. And so there are others out there that you can find. Some of them do charge a supplement. Some of them don't. And if you're very lucky, I mean, the thing is to shop around and keep an eye out, because every so often they have special promotions where there are no single supplements. And I mean, that's the time, obviously, to leap in because you can get a really, really good bargain if you can do that.
And actually, there's also good deals with river cruises. I know that river cruises often waive the single supplement. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
They do, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a company called Tauk, which is actually an American company. They don't charge any single supplement at all on any of their cruises. If you're staying in a category one cabin. Now, unfortunately, the category one cabin is the one that is right down the bottom of the ship. And you have a window which is high up, which is a bit of a shame. So you're not getting a view. It's not perfect. But they also have no single supplement, or they've waived it on a certain selected number of cruises throughout the year. This is throughout 2016. And they're not the only ones that do that. So again, it's worth shopping around and looking around, because more and more cruise lines are doing this. I think Amma Waterways is another one that has some special offers out there for people who are traveling alone, because it's such a great way to travel if you are on your own. And I cruise a lot on my own. It's a brilliant way to do it, because you're always meeting new friends, and as I say, it's a very convivial atmosphere. It's an easy way to get to know people.
You know, it's actually really true, because the cruise that I did was a Mediterranean cruise, and I was by myself, and I would go off on the shore excursions, and I would always have a different person sitting next to me because I was like the one single seat. Like,
exactly.
it was great, because you met lovely people, and it was just you weren't tied to just one individual to chat with. You could make friends, every day, a new friend.
It's true, actually. And being a single person, you're absolutely right. I always call myself the filler when I'm on my own, because you tend to be used to fill things up, and it does mean that you meet several people, or several different people each time.
No, it's a great day. And actually, by the way, you were absolutely right to point out that it isn't just single women who are living single. Many women are married whose husbands don't like to cruise, or they just don't like to go where you want to go. So it's really a very broad group of people. It's not just the single women or single men. It's anyone who, like you say, likes to travel by themselves.
And I think that's the important thing that cruise lines have realised now, is that it's not just people who are on their own, but it is groups of people, and you don't have to be women either. Actually, let's be honest. I mean, it can be groups of men as well.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I know your audience is women, but it's people who want to travel together, but they are not good enough friends, or they just don't want to actually share a cabin. I wouldn't want to share a cabin with others if I was traveling with them.
I know.
I like to have my privacy, and I'm sure most other people are like that.
No, I totally agree with you. So what about people who are single, however? I mean, I know there are cruise lines specifically offering singles cruises, and I don't think they're like a dating. I mean, I suppose there might be some dating that goes on, but, for people who are traveling alone and where the cruise ship has activities, planned for single people. Do you know of any that you might recommend or mention?
There's none. There aren't really any that's specifically just for single people, because I think if you set your departure up just for single people and you didn't fill it, it would be a bit of a problem. But there are plenty of ships out there, or cruise lines out there, which attract, or whose ships have a lot of single cabins. Now, an example is Saga Cruises, and I mean they are for the over 50s only, and their two ships, they have a lot of single cabins, because that is a huge market for them. So if you go on there as a single person, it is nice, because there are going to be plenty of other single people there to meet. Fred Olsen is another example. They've got 4 ships, and again, those 4 ships have a lot of single cabins. And the nice thing is that they're not just the cheap cabin down the bottom. So if you would like a balcony cabin, but you just happen to be traveling on your own, you can have a balcony cabin. I mean, this is the thing. A lot of the time, the single people are always thought, oh well, they can have the cheap, the cheap room down the bottom, because we can't fill that. Actually, why should we have that? So it's really nice that these companies cater for you if you want to have just an ocean view, or if you want to have a balcony.
Now, this is great, and we'll put all this information in the article, all the lines that you've mentioned, so you don't have to rewind there, because you've thrown out some great ideas, and I really appreciate that. Now, yourself, I mean, how do you travel by yourself? I mean, are there any lines that you feel really cater to the single woman? I mean, not so much just excluding men, but for the single woman?
Well, the ones I've mentioned, they certainly do.
Olsen and
they certainly do, because they also on board have activities where they will try to draw single people, or people. I should stop calling them single people. People travelling on their own. They try to draw them in so that they can meet each other and have an easy way to meet each other. And I have to say, river cruising is also a really, really great way to travel even if you're on your own and you happen to be the only person on your own, because it is a much smaller environment,
Right.
and you do get to meet an awful lot of people like that.
Okay, I've been taking mental notes, and I'm definitely going to check some of these out. I really appreciate your insights. I'm sure that the women in the community are going to love following up on what you've suggested. And of course, you've written a lot of articles on all of these topics, and people can go to your page on the Telegraph and read them at their leisure. So thanks a lot for being here.
It was a pleasure. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks.